In the early 1950s, Bill France Sr., the president and founder of NASCAR, was looking to transform his mostly southern sport into a national staple. In addition to signing local tracks across the country into the NASCAR sanction, France created a three-race swing in the upper Midwest in the summer of 1953. The tour featured the Grand National Series, the premier class in NASCAR, now known as the Cup Series. The first of the three-race series was held on Wednesday, July 22, 1953. It took place at Rapid Valley Racetrack in Rapid City, South Dakota. Herb Thomas was the winner of the event. Dick Rathman took second, ahead of Fonnie Flock and Lee Petty. The Lincoln County Fairgrounds in North Platte, Nebraska was the next stop on the Grand National Tour. It was a race that ended in controversy. Herb Thomas had led most of the race. On the final lap, it appeared as if he had let Dick Rathman pass him and take the win in a photo finish. The promoter threatened to withhold the pay for both first and second place drivers. After a call to NASCAR President Bill France, all was set right and the drivers were paid. Lee Petty took third in the Nebraska race. A handful of drivers made the trek from North Platte and arrived early in Davenport, Iowa, a few days before the next race. The early arrivals were allowed to use the space under the grandstand at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds as a temporary garage to work on their race cars. Among the early arrivals were Oldsmobile driver Buck Baker. Baker was a North Carolina bus driver before becoming a NASCAR pioneer. He would go on to collect 46 career victories and back-to-back championships in 56 and 57. He created one of the first stock car racing schools and was the father of NASCAR star Buddy Baker. A trio of Hudson drivers also arrived early in Davenport. The Hudson Hornet was the top race car of the era, but their dominance led them to be called the fabulous Hudson Hornet. The Hudson contingent included Fonnie Flock, the flamboyant racer from Atlanta, Georgia, who was the brother of the defending series champion Tim Flock. In addition to his family name and his own 19 Cup wins, Fonnie gained notoriety by sometimes wearing shorts while racing instead of long pants. A California racer, Dick Rathman, who was equally gifted in open-wheel race cars as well as stock cars. Rathman won 13 times in the NASCAR ranks and qualified on the pole for the 1958 Indianapolis 500. His brother Jim won the Indy 500 in 1960. The third Hudson driver was Herb Thomas, one of NASCAR's first superstars. Herb Thomas won the Grand National Championships in 1951 and 1953. Thomas won 48 races in only 228 starts. His winning percentage has stood as a NASCAR record for more than 60 years. One top racer that made a detour on his way to Davenport was Lee Petty. Petty had to travel to Detroit to pick up a new Dodge Coronet from the Chrysler factory. Petty was a three-time NASCAR champion and collected 54 career wins. Lee started Petty Enterprises and is the father of stock car racing legend, the King, Richard Petty. In 1953, the Davenport Speedway was a NASCAR-sanctioned track for weekly racing. The weekly programs were held on Thursday and Sundays using the quarter-mile oval. Davenport was one of several eastern Iowa tracks that held NASCAR sanction. The other tracks included Burlington, Farley, and Seymour Acres in Cedar Rapids. At the Thursday night weekly program held prior to the Grand National race, there was a definite buzz in the air at the fairgrounds track. Race fans were invited to view the temporary garage under the grandstand and visit with the NASCAR drivers. Buck Baker took part in a special dash race, driving against the locals in a local car. Even the racing program had a definite surge of energy. Contact between two cars in that very first heat race of the evening led to a fistfight on the front stretch. The special dash race saw Buck Baker driving the 87, usually driven by Red Untied. Baker started last, but could only work his way up to a third-place finish. Milo Weber of Dubuque finished first in the dash, with Ernie Spaeth of Davenport taking second. Local hero Red Untied was shut out in the preliminaries, but he came back in the feature to win the race. Milo Weber finished second, with Ernie Spaeth third. There was a local effort to get Red Untied a ride for the Grand National race at Davenport, but those efforts came up short. Since the quarter-mile track was used for weekly races, a lot of work had to be put into the half-mile to prepare it for Sunday's race. The task was made more difficult by the summer heat. Friday's high was 91 degrees and Saturday was a blistering 98. The forecast for Sunday was to be equally as hot, but a cold front came through Saturday evening, bringing showers and cooler temperatures to the area. The crowd started arriving early on race day. Time trials were set to start at noon, with the race scheduled to begin at 2:30 p.m. Ticket prices were $3 for box seats and $2 for general admission. The field for the first NASCAR Grand National race in Iowa consisted of 5 series regulars that included 3 future Hall of Fame inductees, an Indy 500 pole sitter, and the brother of the reigning series champion. The remainder of the field was made up by a Nevada racer, 2 brothers from Kansas, and 6 regional drivers trying to measure up to the best in the sport. It didn't take long for the action to heat up. Ed Skinner of Nevada flipped his car in time trials. Skinner was taken to the hospital for observation. But Baker set the pace in qualifying with a lap of 33.16 seconds, edging out Lee Petty for the pole position. In the pit area, mechanics went to work making repairs to Ed Skinner's car. With the driver still at the hospital, it was decided that Red Untied would race the car in the main event. A large cheer went up in the crowd when the announcement was made over the loudspeakers. The start of the main was held up for an additional 20 minutes so that repairs to Skinner's car could be completed. The race started with pole sitter Baker leading the first 2 laps. Petty grabbed the top spot on lap 3 and held it until lap 48. On lap 49, Herb Thomas and his Hudson Hornet took control of the race. While the NASCAR stars were out in front, the local contingent were falling by the wayside. Red Untied was the first to drop out with mechanical problems on lap 21. Paul Newkirk of Cedar Rapids lasted until lap 56 when a spindle problem ended his race. A broken flywheel took out Jerry Draper of Silvis after 85 laps. Ernie Durr of Keokuk made it past halfway before his Oldsmobile suffered mechanical issues. Late in the race, Keith Lucas of Sperry, Iowa, brought the crowd to his feet when he flipped his Studebaker and hit the fence. Gasoline poured out of his car and caught fire. The driver was able to walk away from the crash. Out in front of the field, Herb Thomas was playing a fuel mileage gamble. He had lapped the field and decided not to make a pit stop for additional gas. Lee Petty and Fonnie Flock both stopped for fuel in the final 10 laps of the race. Thomas's gamble paid off. He was first to the checkered flag, finishing the 200 laps in 1 hour and 36 minutes. The average speed of the race was 62.5 miles per hour. Herb Thomas took home a check for $1,000 for the win. In the post-race interview, Thomas said that his car had ran out of fuel after the checkered flag. Buck Baker showed in second with Lee Petty placing third. Both drivers finished 1 lap down. Dick Rathman was 2 laps behind the leader, finishing in 4th. Fonnie Flock finished 5th, making it a clean sweep for the top 5 positions for the NASCAR regulars. Bill Harrison of Topeka, Kansas took 6th. Western Iowa racers Mel Kruger and Johnny Bokamp were 7th and 8th, respectively. Tubby Harrison finished 9th and was the last car running when the checkers flew. All in all, the first Grand National race in Iowa was considered a great success. However, it would be a walloping 71 years before the state of Iowa would see another Cup race. The Iowa Speedway in Newton hosted that event in 2024. The memories of the first Grand National race in Iowa still remain. They live on in the stories and record books of the day NASCAR came to Davenport.